What should we know about the white Afrikaners coming to the United States as refugees and then to become citizens? What about these Russian terrorist attacks? There's been several plots reported in the news, and another one again yesterday. And what exactly is going on with RFK's health? We'll talk about all of that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to everybody who subscribed to the channel, to everybody who likes, watches, and comments on the videos. I try to get to all of your comments. I'm not always successful, but I certainly try. If you promote the channel in any way whatsoever, huge thank you. And if you've given money to the channel through the super thanks, buy me a coffee, Venmo, huge thank you. Okay. So 8,000 white Africans are coming to the United States under an order signed by the felon. They will be granted citizenship. They will be set up with housing. They will have their expenses paid for several months until they can be thoroughly relocated. In general, this idea of bringing over refugees and helping them relocate, I think, is a fine idea. But when we're deporting people who are legally here, or kidnapping in some cases, trying to escape gun violence, and we're saying that they don't have a strong enough argument to be in the United States, but these white Africans who, for all intents and purposes, aren't under any threat, under any danger, it's fine because they're suffering from anti-white discrimination. And here's some facts that I looked up before the reading, and then I'll get into the images that I got while scrying. White Africans make up 7% of the South African population. I found quotes from over 8 of them that are part of this group calling South Africa uninhabitable since the blacks took over, and various other racist statements. Make of that what you wish. So 7% of the population is white Africans, yet they own 50% of the farmland. And this is where the dispute comes in. The South African government was wanting to reclaim some farmland and do it in an equitable way, as this farmland was obtained during the apartheid system, which was promoted by the white Africans, some of which were very much alive and of voting age during the apartheid. So 7% owns 50%, sounds like something in the US. And moreover, the felon said that they're just going to grant them citizenship. Usually there's a process there. I don't know how much vetting is going to be going on, but like I said, it's not hard to find racist comments said by a lot of this people in this group. So why are they coming to the US? What is the motivation? Is Elon Musk involved? Why grant citizenship? Why not just give them refugee status for several years and then let them apply for citizenship? Okay, we'll look into that. Before we look into that, I want to look into the Russian terrorist attack. There's a report that they were trying to do something nefarious in Germany. There's been reports throughout the year that they've been trying to maybe do something with the airline industry, and particularly air or flights leaving Turkey. And in my scrying images, I got images of them trying to not only attack airlines and airports, but train stations. It felt like it's mostly in Eastern Europe and in Germany. I don't think it extends beyond Germany and Poland as far as how west it goes in Europe. But, images are images. I could be right, I could be wrong. This reading is for entertainment purposes only, as always. And then I also saw, while scrying, I'll get to the images of the South Africans here in a second, but I saw images of RFK being really sick, and it felt like it was a treatable disease, and yet he was refusing treatment. And I think this is like his ultimate downfall. I don't think this is anytime soon, but I think it's, the next 2 or 3 years. So we'll look into see just how he's doing health-wise. Um, so let's start with RFK, then we'll move to the Russian terrorist attack, and then we'll finish with the South Africans. Okay, so what do we need to know? What could you share with us about RFK's health? You can imagine, I mean, immediately you get a feeling of he's not able to think things through, like he's not capable of discerning logic. He acts on emotions and thinks they are logic. Like he thinks he's very smart. The truth is he's not. In the sense of applying logic. Now, to me, that's the only type of smart there is applying logic when it comes to running a government agency, right? There's other types of intelligence, but they're not applicable to government agencies, such as emotional intelligence, that kind of stuff, right? They're very applicable if you want to be a counselor, that kind of thing. But as far as running a big government agency, I think logic's the foundation of it. What do we need to know about his health? It's like he doesn't understand how science works, which is very scary. So, the scientific method says you collect data and then you draw a conclusion. He wants to take his conclusion and then find data to support it. And that's just not the way it's supposed to work. So, are you going to find a link between, if you look for a link between vaccines and autism, will you find a link? It's not going to be a strong link, but you're going to find that most kids with autism have been vaccinated because most kids have been vaccinated, right? It proves nothing. You have to go about it the other way around, right? You have to ask, you know, what information can we gather? What common links are there? And there's far more common links than just vaccines. And that's been debunked, by the way. So the person that wrote the paper has admitted as much, but they're still using it because it advances their agenda. And unfortunately, the people in the United States, in particular, not those of you on this channel by any means, but are not capable of reading, articles and understanding them that contain any sort of science or statistics in them. So we need to know about her. It's very dangerous. He's going to get, we're over 1,000 measles cases in the US. There's going to be more. There's going to be outbreaks of hepatitis B. So be aware, there's a vaccine for that if you haven't had it. If you were my generation, from I think 74 to 84, somewhere that there's like a 10-year span where they didn't vaccinate for it. You might want to check it out. It's a series of 3 shots, I think. Hepatitis A as well. Hepatitis B in particular is something you can very easily get if you come into contact with some unsanitary food. I think the main thing we need to know is that he just doesn't care about anybody. It's pretty point blank. He took his grandkids swimming in a place that there's no swimming because it's contaminated with sewage. There's clearly some cognitive issues as well. His health is very much on the edge. The Knight of Swords, and it's moving quickly towards that edge. In the environment around, we have a lot of fighting with the Five of Wands. I think this is his internal battles of being told that what he's saying isn't true, but still finding a way to justify it as being true. The truth in the upper right, it's a good spot for it. The Ace of Swords. We get empathetic messages in the environment around and empathetic leaders. He comes across as caring in the sense of like, we don't want, you know, he's talking about autism as if it's this epidemic that he knows the cause to, when in fact he does not know the cause to it. And he's also talking about people with autism as if they're not whole individuals. Now, I've known several people that are on the spectrum, and I can guarantee you a lot of them are very whole individuals. Now, there are various degrees, right? Some of them are more functional than others. And of course, we'd like to, lessen the number of cases, but pretending that you know the cause is not the way, especially if it's going to lead to deaths from preventable diseases. In the center of the reading, he's going to be defending himself constantly. This is going to take a stress on his health. He's going to realize this isn't what he thought it was cracked up to be. People aren't going to relent. State governments aren't going to start suddenly not requiring vaccines, right? They'll try to pass a national law, but then the states will find a way around it. And I don't think a national law will get passed anyhow. Elon Musk, this dark energy, this manifestation in the environment around. The reason that's there is because it makes him feel as if he's sane. When you surround yourself with crazy people, you feel sane, right? If you want to feel, if you have a small addiction and you want to feel great, go surround yourself with a bunch of people with highly active addictions. It's kind of like that. He's teetering on the edge of reality, so he's going to surround himself by people that really can't discern reality. Seeds are getting planted. That's the scary part. The Page of Cups, I think again, we're going to get messages, emotional messages. We get the Queen of Wands, passion and leadership. This is intended. This is somebody else. So he's on a precipice. He's finding himself having to defend himself. Who's he defending himself against? He's defending himself against leaders who actually have the goods, that actually have the knowledge and the passion. And that's why ultimately he's not going to succeed on the grand scale. Now, there's going to be some global things happening that aren't good, right? The seeds have been planted. He's going to defend himself. What's he defending himself against? He's defending himself against the truth. Mentally, however, he's in this very dark place. He's got a lot of internal demons. And I don't think he's completely heartless. I think he's just a narcissist. So, which sometimes can be completely heartless. So these emotional messages, both from the Queen of Cups and the Page of Cups, coming forward, I do think tug at his strings. There for a while, he had encouraged people to get the measles and get their kids the measles vaccine. And then the MAGA people went after him. And so he stopped. He wants victory, but the truth is he's just greedy, incapable of logic. And we're going to start to find that things are coming to the surface, that the information they're acting on is nothing but deceit and deception, the Seven of Swords. And we need to start looking out for the next generation. And we probably should question whether Russia has some sort of influence over him as well, in the sense of he might be unwittingly influenced by Russia, right? I don't think he's on the payroll or anything. I just think he's acting out their agenda. But again, they're not smart enough to know that, which is really the sad state of affairs. Okay, so this Russian terrorist attacks, should we be expecting more? Use this deck. Should, will there be more? There's definitely going to be more terrorist attacks inside of Russia. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Russia trying to provoke things outside of Russia, like in Germany and Poland, perhaps Moldova, Romania, and do it through surrogacy. Of course, there's that disputed kind of land between, I think it's Germany, Poland, or maybe it's Poland. It's on the sea. So like Germany, Poland, Estonia, Latvia, somewhere in that range. Kirksland, something like that. Can we expect more? Is Russia actively plotting attacks outside of Russia to create a bigger problem? So I just very clearly got it's not going to work. So are they planning it? I think so. Are they going to be successful at a few of them? Yes, but it's not going to work as in causing a broader conflict. Yeah, there are things behind the scenes we can't see. The high priestess, they're working their stuff behind the scenes. Families, reunions, and celebrations, these will be the targets and the environment around. And by that, I mean just large public locations. We get the Knight of Pentacles messages coming forward about money. And I think this has to do, we'll have to see, the upper right isn't defined yet, but I think this has to do with people discovering the plots before they happen. The emperor and the environment around abuse of power. Um, this is probably not Vladimir Putin directly, but his lackeys. At the center of the reading, we get the lovers. This is unlikely partnerships. Wouldn't be surprised if it turns out to be some Turkish nationals or Belarusians or people from outside of Russia doing Russia's dirty work in exchange for something. So, and we get the Knight of Cups emotional messages and stability with the Four of Pentacles. That's a good card. The Six of Cups, the thinking about the next generation. And we get the Page of Wands, fiery messages. So there are things behind the scenes that we can't see, which is this formation of these unlikely partners, which will bring forth a message of fire, so to speak. They're going to try to bring forward these like attacks. However, I don't think they'll be successful because stability ultimately, the Four of Pentacles, the stability is influencing the unlikely partnerships, and messages about money are involved, which I think will be intercepted. And I think they'll be intercepted because we have the Page of Cups or the Knight of Cups down here, which is emotional messages coming forward. So I think they'll be intercepted and these things will be thwarted. Although they're going to try to abuse their power, they're going to think about attacking places that are heavily populated. But I think Germany and Poland, and to a lesser extent, the United States, um, has a pretty good grasp on what they're planning. Ukraine as well. They're intercepting all of these messages. So let's hope we're right there. Circles of support and celebration. Yeah, it's going to be a heavy lift to try to pull one of these off. Um, you get greed, we get Elon Musk and the dark energy. Again, more emotional messages, lots of anxiety. We get the Democrats, and here's the kicker. This is why I think it doesn't work. Is we get the Six of Pentacles, which is about the exchange of money, right? I think that's where these things get caught up at, and that leads to confinement, the Eight of Swords. So I I don't think we should be overly worried. I think we should be, eyes wide open, right? See something, say something type of thing. But I don't think we need to be overly worried, for entertainment purposes only. I don't see anything there. Okay, now moving on to the white Africans that are coming to the United States. So the images I got and the interviews I was able to find with people that are supposedly of this group of 8,000, although you never really know. Um, Lots of racist comments. Um, I think the biggest thing that I got is a few things. Is I think they will be put in locations where they can help create social unrest, not by them intentionally doing anything necessarily, just by their own presence being there and the fact that they have these views. And these views kind of are, whether they're true or not of an individual, they're leaving South Africa, right? And they're claiming they're leaving South Africa because they're being mistreated by the majority Black government. Uh, Ignoring the fact that generations of their ancestors mistreated uh, the Black population in South Africa. So I think that's part of it. The other part, this part worries me a little bit more. Um, Besides sowing unrest, is this kind of a plot to Elon Musk and Bill Gates? And I don't think Bill Gates is necessarily involved, but a lot of these people have been buying up farmland, and we don't really know who owns what because of LLCs and various other corporate accounting techniques. Is Elon Musk going to start to distribute farmland to them and then um, kind of keep them as indentured servants, is what I'm getting. I think they're going to regret coming to the United States. I don't think it's going to be good for them. Um, so let's start by asking the questions. Will this lead to social unrest in the United States? Yeah, I mean, big flashing yes. Will this lead to social unrest? It might not lead to violence or anything like that, but it's going to lead to a lot of snide comments at the grocery stores. I feel like the government will strategically place them to maximize this because I think the government wants social unrest between uh, the white population and the non-white population. Yeah, I mean, the government's going to succeed, right? The victory card. The government's going to succeed in creating the social unrest by where they settle them. Now, if they settle them all in northern Idaho, not a big deal. That's where most of the white supremacists live, anyhow. But I don't think that's where they're going to settle them. We're going to get a state of pausing and suspension in the environment around the hanged man. People are really going to think this through. You know, on one hand, a good majority of the populace in the United States isn't very informed. On the other hand, if a refugee moves in next door, you might stop and think about it. And you might stop and think about why these white farmers from South Africa are being allowed into the US, but we're deporting people who are fleeing gang violence. And we get strength in the upper right. We get the Queen of Pentacles holding this really, like, the government's keeping it quiet what they're trying to do. Not in the sense that they're bringing them over, but what the psychological campaign, for the lack of a better word, is going to be. Yeah, circles of support around money, Putin the felon, and MUSK. And this is what I was picking up when I was scrying. Yeah, giving and receivings of loans and debts, heavy burdens, the temperance card, moderation, and then being wounded in battle, the Five of Swords. So the government's going to be victorious in helping to social unrest. The Africans from South Africa are going to have the financial support of the government along with MUSK. But ultimately, that's kind of their downfall. And we'll get into that in just a second with the images I saw. They're carrying heavy burdens, but most of them are burdens of their own making. And they're looking for a leg up. And they think they're in a strong position, but it's not going to turn out that way. The populace is going to take the time out to like think about this. Why is this going on? The government's going to try to hold their secrets for as long as they can. They're going to portray it as being very moderate. But the truth is basically kind of an extortion of the repayments of loans and debts. And I think those loans are going to come from people like MUSK. The Democrats are looking into it, though. Circles of support and celebration. Greed is the ultimate reason why this is happening. Okay, so what I was getting in the scrying images was that in a little while, and in a little while doesn't mean, it could be this year. It probably isn't. It's probably next year, the year after, that these refugees are going to be given land to farm by some sort of corporation that's probably backed by MUSK. And I don't think it's going to work well for them. So is Elon Musk, this is kind of a yes, no question. Is Elon Musk going to provide them with farming resources? Is this like going to be an attempt by Elon Musk to use these people to create this big collaborative farm so that more small farms go under so that they can get bigger? And will he bring on others? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of Russia's idea. And Musk, it's a way to destabilize the country. But the truth's in the environment around, so I think we'll know about it before it happens. Emotional messages, the King or the Knight of Cups. All things are converging to one point. Everything is going to be pointing towards the racism that allowed this and the exploitation that is going to happen. We get the Hermit card at the center of the reading, shedding a light, feeling isolated and alone, bombshells and surprises. families and reunions, the Ten of Cups, the Knight of Wands, fiery messages, freedom, and the King of Swords, logic. So it's like this Russian influence, which really you can't really distinguish from Musk's influence. It's kind of similar. Um, is eventually going to come to light and leave these people isolated and alone. They're not going to integrate into the US populace very easily. And part of it is because of their ways of thinking, in the sense that, um, they feel entitled to this. And that's a bit disturbing. It's not the same as people coming that are fleeing violence. They'll claim they are, but they're not. They're just not. The Ten of Cups, they're thinking it's going to be good for their families, but they're going to end up feeling isolated and alone. And then we're going to feel some emotional messages coming from them. They're up for a big surprise once they find out the truth. And the truth involves how free they're actually going to be, and everything converging to a point. And that point is Musk controlling them through this idea of like sharecropping. Don't know how much you all know about the farming industry, but there are a lot of people that farm land that never make money, right? Because the people that own the land make the money. And so if you don't own the land, you're not in a good spot. And I feel that's going to be part of it. And this will also be to create more disruption in certain places where they find it advantageous. So will these refugees end up working for Elon Musk? Let's just ask that. Will some of these South Africans be working for Elon Musk in a farming endeavor? Yeah. I mean, the Nine of Pentacles. They will, and at the beginning, they're going to think they have everything they need. It's an unlikely partnership. They might not even know who they're partnered with. The Queen of Cups, though, empathy and emotions. I think we're going to start hearing some sad stories. It's going to take a while. Here's the felon himself, the King of Pentacles. I'm sorry, this is the Knight of Pentacles. Messages about money. Yeah, like giving. Here's some land, farm it. Of course, it's never that secret. Choices needing to be made on whether they accept that. Justice in the environment around. Question is justice for who? Death. The end of a cycle. And the Hermit, again, feeling isolated and alone. And juggling a lot of things, including overseas money. So at first they're going to feel like they have everything that they need. Then they're going to be making choices, and then they're just going to be feeling overwhelmed. And the choice that they're going to make is to do these business partnerships. What they thought was the end of the dark cycle that they were going through just leads to choices, which leads to a lot of emotional messages of what they're going to be going through in the United States. They're going to feel very alone. They're going to feel indebted and possibly be in debt. They're going to make unlikely partnership deals thinking they're good. And they're basically going to be taken advantage of, is what I'm saying. And justice will elude them because until Democrats are in control, there is no justice. So yeah, guardrails, very important. Spy in the camp, sabotage, the Page of Swords. It's very much they're on the wheel of fortune, wondering how things are going to turn, but they're currently, bearing all the burdens of the Ten of Wands, but they're marching one by one, willing to do this, and they're not ready for the fact that they're going to be treated not as individuals, but just as a big group. And it's inevitable that they get taken advantage of by people in the higher positions. That's my feeling on it. Could be right, I could be wrong. I think it's going to take a while to play out because I do think, they'll get resettled first, and then these MUSK type business adventures will appear to them. Yeah. Anyhow, all right. Thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video soon.